Hello everyone, this is Alex from Bad Decks Played Badly, and this is going to be our new deck for this week. It's going to be called Simic Haze. So this one's for all the stoners out there. So basically this deck is built around the card Paradox Haze. It's a 3-mana aura enchantment, and I can enchant a player. So at the beginning of enchanting player's first upkeep, each turn, that player gets an additional upkeep step after this step. So essentially we have 2 upkeep triggers. And there's plenty of ways we can kind of break this card. I actually discovered this card a bit late, and I kind of wish I put it in my last that demons deck I made. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, that demons deck I made, not last deck, but a deck before. I think this would have actually been really good in it, and I may go back to that deck at some point in my personal time and with playing it with Paradox Haze and see how it goes. But I have built a nice fresh deck around it. So what can we do to kind of exploit upkeep triggers? There's quite a few things in here. I will get round to it, but I will just start on the 1-drops and our ramp. So I've got 4 copies of Arbor Elf, so I get to untap a target forest. I've got 3 copies of Birds of Paradise, just add 1 mana of any colour. And I've got the 4 Utopia Sprawls. Arbor Elf and Utopia Sprawls, other than Tron, are probably the best ramp in Modern, so this should work out pretty well. We've got quite a lot of ramp to get us going, so a lot of our stuff we do need a bit of mana for. Okay, we've got just as creature sort of, keep us in the game really. I've kind of gone for a more enchantment based deck. I'll start actually with a very key piece of the deck is 4 copies of Commune with Gods. So I may reveal the top 5 cards of my library, and I'll put a creature or enchantment card from among them into my hand and the rest into the graveyard. So this is really good for us. We just get to go digging for an enchantment or a creature. We have plenty of both. So it's just a really, really good card, and probably the best draw spell we can have for this deck. It also helps us find our Paradox Haze, which is of course an enchantment, and it's very important to our deck. So one of the enchantments going to find, as I was saying before, is Slimebind. It's Flash, so it's essentially play it as an instant, and it just gives the creatures -4 to its power. It's absolutely fine, and it does the job very well. It's not too much in blue removal wise, but this is one of the better ones just for keeping us in the game just a little bit longer against more of the aggro decks, or maybe like a humans deck. This should help us out quite a lot. And there's 3 copies of that. I've got 2 copies of Imprisoned in the Moon. It's kind of like the enchantment and more expensive version of Path, really, but it also hits lands and planeswalkers. So enchant creature, land, or planeswalker, and the enchanted permanent is a colourless land with tap, add, colourless, and loses all other card types and abilities. So it just turns any card into a colourless land. It hits creatures, lands, and in planeswalkers. It doesn't hit artifacts or enchantments, but we've got stuff on our sideboard that can maybe deal with that stuff. As stated before, there's 4 copies of Paradox Haze. It's the key piece of our deck. Okay, so we're going to get to what's our kind of payoffs of the deck. Why do we care about upkeep triggers? So we've got 4 copies of Primordial Hydra. So you pay 2 green and X, and it enters the battlefield with X counters on it. And at the beginning of your upkeep, double the amount of counters on it. And if it has 10 or more counters on it, it gains trample. So usually, I quite like this card anyway without Paradox Haze. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and unless they get rid of it, it will just win you the game single-handedly. We've got 4 copies of it, and with Paradox Haze, this is just broken. If we even put it down for one Paradox Haze, that's 2, then 4, and then the next turn it'll be 8, double to 6, 16, and it can get massive. I played 1 or 2 testing games in this, and I've figured out that Magic Online only allows it to get up to a 420 or something like that. So it can happen when you get a giant creature just off your Primordial Hydras. I've got some card draw. I actually think this is an awesome card. I added this late actually to the deck. It's Kumena's Awakening. So it's a 4 mana enchantment. It's got Ascend, so if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. So at the beginning of my upkeep, I get to draw a card. If I've got 2 upkeeps, that's 2 cards. So that's each turn I'm drawing 3 cards on my upkeep. It's fantastic. And if I have the City's Blessing, instead only you draw a card. So when playing this, I tend to leave it a little bit later than maybe I should, because I don't like them drawing twice as well. So I do kind of wait till I have the City's Blessing until I play this. I will in a pinch play it, but I will play anything else until I've got City's Blessing set up. But once it's set up, I mean, you just draw and draw and draw and draw. It's brilliant. It really is really, really good. So yeah, perfect card draw. I've got 4 copies of Master of the Wild Hunt. So at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. It's quite obvious, isn't it? With Paradox Haze, that's going to be 2 wolf creature tokens, which is brilliant. We're just going to amass a giant army of tokens and just smash face, as well as maybe go over the top with Primordial Hydra with Trample. Some good stuff. So you can tap all untapped wolf creatures you control, and each wolf tapped this way deals damage equal to its power to target creature. That creature deals damage equal to the power to its power divided as its controller chooses among any number of wolves. So essentially our wolves fight a creature, but this is going to be our removal in the deck, and we're just going to fire down any of their little stuff, or maybe later in the game their big stuff. Very good. 4 copies of that. I was going to put 4 copies of Creekwood Legion, but I thought that Master of the Wild Hunt was probably better just because for removal. But I mean, Creekwood Legion is no joke as well. I've got 3 copies of it. So other black creatures you control get +1/+1. Okay, that doesn't apply to us. We have no black creatures. However, other green creatures you control get +1/+1, and we have a lot of green creatures. So it's just a good anthem effect. And at the beginning of my upkeep, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a 1/1 black and green worm creature token. So one of these down, the next turn I'll get 2 3/3 worms. It's great, and it goes so quick. I mean, if you have multiple Creekwoods down as well, they power the worms for each. So it's a massive, massive board state, and it's really fun when it starts getting, like, once it gets going, it's brilliant, and it's just inevitable. Unless you have a board wipe, we win. And last but not least, 2 copies of Progenitor Mimic. So it's just a normal clone card. You may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. The good thing is, though, it's at the beginning of your upkeep. If this creature isn't a token, create a token that's a copy of this creature. That's brilliant. So essentially we could copy the biggest thing on their side, or maybe a Master of the Wild Hunt, or probably Creekwood Legion is probably the best thing to keep copying, just because it pumps the rest of the other stuff. But essentially each turn we're going to get 2 copies of that rather than 1. And it escalates very, very quickly. So yeah, I love this card. It's actually one of my favourite cards. I own it in paper and play it as often as I can when I'm playing casually amongst friends. And it's really cool. There's nothing funner than cloning a creature and then getting copy after copy of that creature, because then it's just awesome. I love it. Okay, we'll check out the lands. We have to be able to play this stuff. So I've got 4 copies of Botanical Sanctum. Enters battlefield tapped unless you control 2 of your other lands. That's fine. I've got 4 copies of Breeding Pool. As Breeding Pool enters battlefield, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters battlefield tap. So these have gone down in price quite a lot since I last checked. So Breeding Pools now, I think it was only 3 ticks for the entire playset. So if you guys haven't got them, I recommend going out and getting them now because they're quite cheap. I couldn't find the I can't remember what it's called, but the fetch side of the fetch lands for this, because they're still like 30-40 ticks, so I couldn't afford them. But in a budget deck, these work very well. And you got to remember, because we have Utopia Sprawl, we have to enchant a forest, and these are forest islands, so it's very important to the deck. If you don't have money for these, I'd recommend maybe just putting in more forests and kind of working your way around it there, because you need to be able to get Utopia Sprawls on turn 1 really. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 6. So we've got 6 forests. As I said before, which is very important, we need a forest to be able to put Utopia Sprawls on. Self-explanatory. I have 4 copies of Hinterland Harbour, and it enters battlefield tapped unless you control a forest or island. So that most of the time this is going to be entering not tapped. So it's just good. We do want forests, but unfortunately when you're on budget lands, you still need to be able to have dual lands. And I've just got 2 islands, just in case stuff gets pathed or we get blood mooned or anything like that. We do need some islands. So yeah, that's the main deck. It's essentially trigger loads of tokens, trigger big creatures, attack. It's going to be a fun deck. I'll show you guys the sideboard right now. So I've been trying to maximise the triggered abilities again for I always forget what it's called. I just call it Haze, Paradox Haze. So I'm going to have 2 for burn decks or anything like that where we need to gain a bit more life, well, I've got Fountain of Renewal, and it just costs 1 to put down. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life. That's it. But with us, we gain 2 life. If we've got multiples, it could be 3 or 4. It's just very good against burn, and that's the main reason it's in there. We can sacrifice it in a pinch to draw a card as well, which is nice. I've got 2 relics. This has got nothing to do with triggered abilities. It's just we need graveyard removal. That's it. So 2 copies of relics. I think I play them pretty much in every sideboard I've made so far, so just very important. I've got 3 negates just for control matchups. Control can really ruin our day, so negates are very good at sort of catch-all. I've got 2 copies of Spreading Seas for Tron, and you may have noticed I've got, because of the Imprisoned in the Moon cards in the main deck, we actually don't need quite as many Spreading Seas because they can also negate Tron lands. But just some Spreading Seas are good to have. They are enchantments, so we can fetch them with what's it called again? Let's do this. Commune with the Gods. So we can fetch them with Commune with the Gods. Another one for control is Evolutionary Leap. It's just a good card. You can sacrifice creature, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it's just good against removal when they're using spot removal for our creatures. We can sacrifice it before they remove it, and we can just go fetch up our next creature that we will be having. 1 more copy of Imprisoned in the Moon. Like I said before Tron, or maybe they've got a lot of planeswalkers, or they've just got too many big creatures or weird creatures we can't deal with. It's just another removal card. I've got 1 copy of Threads of Disloyalty. I just wanted to put it in because I kind of like it. We are searching for enchantments. So it's just enchant creature with converted mana cost 2 or less. You control enchanted creature. That's all it is. This would be the sort of thing that'd be good against maybe a humans deck or something like that. Just taking out like with our biggest creature, because most decks in Modern run stuff that's 3 or less. So this should be alright. I think it'd just be a fun one to kind of sort of gotcha moment when you steal their best card. This is a very, very interesting one. I found this recently. I thought it'd be brilliant in the deck. So for Artifact Enchantment removal, we have Mystic Melting. And I know it costs 4 for an instant, but it has got a major upside. So other than destroying target artifact or enchantment, draw a card at the beginning of your next turn's upkeep. So the turn after, we get to draw a card. However, if we've got Paradox Haze down, this turns into destroy artifact or enchantment, draw 2 cards. I mean, who wouldn't want that? That's awesome. So I think in this deck, this really has found a home. You never see it played, but with Paradox Haze, this actually does have quite a lot of use. And we do have a lot of ramps, so 4's not too expensive. And just 1 more against control and other removal. 1 copy of Privileged Position. Other permanents you control have hexproof. That's all it is. We have a lot of enchantments in our deck. We don't want our Paradox Haze being taken off the battlefield. So we just, all of our stuff has hexproof. That's all we need. That's it. Self-explanatory. And hopefully we can get it down before they start ruining our day too much. But yeah, that's it. That's Paradox Haze. If you guys want to give me a like, give me a subscribe, that'd be awesome. Give me some comments. I'd love to know what you guys think of the deck. I think this is a pretty fun one. I'm not sure how competitive it will be, but Creekwood Liege and Progenitor Mimics, these 2 are like some of my favourite cards, and even Primordial Hydra. I mean, I think it was one of the Jewels of the Planeswalker games on Steam. Those are the games that got me into Magic, because I think it was a Steam sale for like £2 like 7 years ago, and I bought it and just fell in love with the game. But I remember there was one level on the campaign. I think it was 2013. I think Jewels of the Planeswalker, and it was just a deck which just ran infinite amounts of Primordial Hydra. And I just remember just thinking when I first started playing, Primordial Hydra is like the best card it has to be. How can there be a better card until you start playing and then you realise paths are a real thing, and you get blown out a lot. But yeah, so this is the deck. I hope you guys enjoy it. Check out the games, and I think they will be fun. Bye.